Hi everybody and welcome to an audio video room special bulletin. It's an update. Crazy news hit the waves today in AUDIOPHILE. Rhinohighfidelity has some new competition. Today we heard that Udiscover Music has launched a series called vinylcommunity that will directly compete with Rhinohighfidelity. They've announced 4 titles right off the bat. Nat King Cole, the band, Bob Marley, and the Velvet Underground. The odd thing about it is the Nat King Cole has also been announced in a definitive sound series audiophile edition for $100, mastered by Chris Bellman, whereas this new Udiscover Music vinylcommunity series is by Joe Nino Hernez of Sterling Sound and will only cost $39.98, right in line with the pricing of Rhinohighfidelity. Let's go through these titles one at a time and just kind of give an overview of what's going on. So per the Udiscover Music website, it states vinylcommunity. It's an audiophile vinyl reissue series from UME, dedicated to presenting essential albums across multiple genres with uncompromising sound quality and presentation. Each vinylcommunity release features all analog mastering from original sources by an elite group of vinyl cutting engineers. The LPs are pressed at the world-class Southern California-based audiophile vinyl record pressing plant RTI on 180-gram vinyl, black. So there won't be any colored vinyl in this, much like Rhinohighfidelity, black only. I assume they're going to have tip-on jackets, stout sleeves. I don't see anything mentioned about analog tapes specifically, nor photographs of the analog tapes, something that we in the Rhinohighfidelity group seem to really love. I know I do. Something about seeing those original boxes that the reel-to-reels come in, it just grabs me. It's something special. Now, in this group of first 4 being released, we have Nat King Cole, The Christmas Song. This is noted to be a vinylcommunity edition and states, for this album pressing, actor and award-winning writer James Ritz has put together a new essay for the liner notes. It states each vinylcommunity release features an all-analog master and pressed at RTI. The production and packaging seek to honor the stature and include, here we go, tip-on wrapped gatefold jackets in satin matte finish, printed on clay-coated board with archival poly sleeves and a 4-panel insert featuring new notes. Well, how about that? That's something we wanted to see. Backed by RTI's craftsmanship, these releases are produced at the highest level and include extensive quality controls at every step for a superb final product. Now, it does note that these are excluded from site-wide sales and discounts and are limited to 4 per customer. So you can only buy 4, keep 1, flip the other 3, I guess. I wish they limited it to 1 apiece, but here we are in 2025. Now, the odd thing about this is that this specific Nat King Cole release was also noted as being a Capitol Definitive Sound Series audiophile edition, which was just announced and covered in depth on a Steve Westman audiophile roundtable recently. Now, that version is cut by Chris Bellman and runs $100 and is a printed limited edition of 3,000. Meanwhile, these vinylcommunity editions, there's no mention of limited edition availability nor being numbered. So they seem to be skipping that route of the numbering followed by a non-numbered edition that Rhinohighfidelity has been doing. Now, the Capitol release is available on the Capitol website and is part of the Definitive Sound Series DSS one-step process. This is going to be from the original analog 3-track masters. The DSS version, as I stated, is 3,000 numbered copies and come with a certificate of authenticity in uniquely designed slipcase houses, heavyweight tip-on gatefold jackets. They are going to have a Neotech 180-gram high-definition vinyl, mastered by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grundman Mastering. Now, the biggest thing that seems to be between the two is that on the Capitol version, most of the songs were on one reel, but not in the order of the 1962 album. That meant master engineer Chris Bellman had to splice the tape in order to get the songs in correct order. This is a painstaking process of going back and forth between the reels, but worth the time and effort. In this case, with Nat King Cole, the 3-track master has the music on 2 tracks, left and right, and Nat's vocal on the 3rd track in the middle, isolated. This was discussed in depth on the recent Steve Westman AUDIOPHILE show, and if you're a fan of Christmas music or Nat King Cole, worth checking out. The moment we hear his voice, it's literally like he was in the room, they said. They had several sources to use as guides, from original vinyl compilations and high-res transfers on some tape. But based on the sound, the transfer wasn't from the original 3-track masters they were lucky enough to have. It was going down a rabbit hole for over an hour and deciding how to proceed. In the end, all the extra time and care needed to use the 3-track, very original master tapes to create definitive sound series was well worth it, and we think you'll agree. Now, that's from the Capitol website. This new Udiscover version seems to be digital, perhaps? It doesn't say. Analog tapes? Which ones? It doesn't say. Is it a final master from this Capitol that they had compiled to put out a more affordable version? Who knows? Now, I'm not going to order this one. I'm not much of a Christmas guy. I'm much more of a Halloween guy. So I'm going to skip the Nat King Cole. I'll just stream it like I do most of my Christmas music. The only Christmas album I have is the Charlie Brown Christmas. That's it. And that's the only one I ever play every Christmas. Until I get my hands on that Star Wars Christmas album that I sold years ago. Big mistake there. But anyway, I digress. Now on to the other titles. So the second title being released is the band's Northern Lights Southern Cross. Celebrating the 50th anniversary of the band's 6th studio album, Northern Lights Southern Cross includes classic band favorites Ophelia, Acadian Driftwood, and It Makes No Difference in a premium package. For this vinyl file pressing of the album, Joe Nino Hernandez at Sterling Sound cut the album, and veteran music scribe Rick Florino has put together a new essay for the liner notes. And it goes on to state that the same sort of care and pressing into the poly sleeves and tip-on jackets are going to be included on this one as well. Another interesting release, Exodus by Bob Marley. Bob Marley's legendary album, Time Magazine's Album of the Century that features the enduring classic songs One Love, People Get Ready, Jamming, and Three Little Birds, is presented in a new audiophile format worthy of accolades. Again, Joe Nino Hernandez at Sterling Sound cut the album, and producer and filmmaker Don Letts has put together a new essay for the liner notes. So this is a peak moment right now. We're seeing all these competing audiophile editions, as Acoustic Sounds had just announced pre-orders for their Bob Marley series, and now we've got a new hat being thrown into the ring from this Vinylophile series. Where to spend your money? Now, the final release in this new announcement is the Velvet Underground and Nico. Originally released in March 1967 by Verve Records, recorded in 1966 during Andy Warhol's Exploding Plastic Inevitable Multimedia Event Tour, the Velvet Underground and Nico would gain attention for their experimental performance sensibilities, as well as the focus on controversial subject matter expressed in many of its songs. Years later, Brian Eno famously stated that while the Velvet Underground and Nico initially only sold 30,000 copies, everyone that bought one of those 30,000 copies started a band. Much like the Sex Pistols, everybody that caught that early Sex Pistols concert in the UK seemed to start their own band, The Clash among others. Again, same thing, RTI pressing, Joe Nino Hernandez, and this one has an Anthony Fantano essay for the liner notes. Now, something to be noted with all these releases for the Udiscover is that they're also selling test pressings. So while initially offering all these as $39.98 versions, they're also offering test pressings. Now, the test pressings are going to run you $174.98, but there is availability for all four titles. So if you wish, you could get the $174.98 version with a blank white test pressing cover on black vinyl. It's up to you and how much money you have to spend. But it's a neat little niche they're creating for themselves, something nobody else is doing, offering these test pressings, which I'm sure will sell out quickly before the normal pressings. But again, they're not saying that these are numbered. So apparently they're going to keep being pressed, not unlike the Rhino High Fidelity series. So that's just a quick update, super news bulletin from the audio video room that seemed to be hitting the waves today. And I'm going to think on it for a little bit before I pull the trigger. Now, the nice thing is I don't have any of these albums. I'm one of those guys that sold his vinyl collection, bought it on CD, sold the CDs, moved to streaming, and now I'm getting back into vinyl. But there's only so much money to go around, and you guys know this. The nice thing is that these are $39.98 price points. That's the perfect price point for an album for a guy that doesn't have any record stores around him. So much of what I do is ordering online, and I think I'll definitely be picking these up with the exception of the Nat King Cole. If I stumble across one in a shop sometime, I might pick it up, but I'm really not a Christmas music guy. It's just not my favorite holiday. It's definitely I'm a Halloween guy. So what do you think about this? Leave me some comments and let me know what your thoughts are on this new series being announced. And stay tuned for more audio video room exclusives as the week progresses. Thanks again, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Audio Video Room.